doom and gloomers were wrong on tariffs. It shows Trump's trade agenda hasn't hurt growth or inflated prices. The Treasury Department says America's GDP likely grew at 2.3% in the second quarter, and prices rose at just 2.4% annually. Both improved from the beginning of the year. And we just got an update on trade talks with China. Secretary Bessent says with no tariff pause extension, rates would boomerang back to Liberation Day levels. They were very high. He says that the trade team will probably meet with China again in 90 days. U.S. Treasuries extended their fall in the wake of Bessent's comments. This all as Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, for the most part, says for the most part that investors should have more policy, certainly after this week.
By the end of this week, they will all be set, they will all be in stone, and they will be written, and we will start collecting those additional monies. Right now, we're collecting 10% from everybody in the world, and of course, a higher rate from China. But come next week, off we go.
Liz, I want to come straight to you on this. President Trump maybe not getting necessarily where he needs to go with China in this negotiation, and therefore the threat of we'll go back to the Liberation Day tariff schedule with China specifically. Do you think that that means negotiations are not going well, or that's just a tactic to kind of press their feet to the fire and get them to move?
Maybe both. I think that China is difficult, and the reason is they actually have leverage. I mean, the great thing about the EU negotiations is what is their leverage? They really don't have any. We are an enormous consumer market. We all know this, $20 trillion. The EU needs access to that, and they really didn't have anything to counter with. And I think one of the reasons the EU officials, French officials in particular, are so angry is that they kind of caved. I mean, that they're using words like submission, et cetera. China, let's face it, has rare earths. And even though I really applaud President Trump for reinvigorating our mining sector, trying to bring some rare earth mines and processing plants, which is even more difficult online, and helping that problem, the truth is that's not going to really change that dynamic for quite some time. So China knows this. China's in trouble. Look, their economy is in big trouble. They need to do a deal, but at the same time, they can press their case.
Bingo. And I'm guessing, Brian, they're not going to want to see those tariffs skyrocket in that way. And also, I think through the negotiations and just his foreign policy in general, the president has let everybody know. I was listening to a separate conversation about how he's dealing with Vladimir Putin, for example. It was Tammy Bruce talking on the news channel saying Putin knows he means business. And so these are not idle threats when the Trump administration makes them. I think the same falls true, rings true with tariffs as well.
Totally. I think on the one hand, that's true. There's no idle threats when it comes to China. I don't buy the taco thing at all, actually. But I notice a difference in kind of the tone that the president's taking with China. He's very firm, but in terms of deadlines and how this is going to roll out and the desire to meet with Xi, look, he's smart enough as a deal maker to know where he has maximum leverage and where he has less leverage. He knew he had maximum with the EU. He knew he had maximum with Japan. He knew he had maximum with South Korea, these guys. And so he played that one way. With China, you can't quite play it that way because the leverage situation is trickier. So what I like about it is I feel like he's playing this smart firm. Look, he's probably going to come up with some big asks. Maybe it's going to get a little tense, but he's being smart because he knows the pathway away from China on some of these key things like rare earths is longer, and you can't drive your truck off of the ramp. You got to stay on the ramp till you get on the freeway. And the freeway is us doing more of the mining, more of the pharmaceuticals, but it takes a little while to get there. So to me, he's playing this consistent with what he understands about the dynamics of a tough negotiation, and he knows how to do that.
And what amazes me with Trump always in the art of the deal is the times when he gives us transparency and he allows us to see how the sausage is made, and the times when he doesn't. And when the conversations are private, we get some headlines so that we get an update and we don't feel like we don't know what's going on. But Lydia, with the China negotiation, we're getting a lot less than that moment with, Zelensky, for example. I know it's not a tariff issue, but in the Oval Office when he kind of let you see it all hang out.
I love the transparency. I love those moments. Yeah, we're not hearing a whole lot. We know that this is day 2 of their negotiations, and it is slow and going. There's progress. We've heard that it's being made. It's just coming along very slowly, and I think there could be a couple of reasons for that. In addition to all the great issues that Liz and Brian just outlined, there are some other, non-trade issues that I've mentioned on the program before just yesterday. Fentanyl is a big issue that they're probably talking about. China has not wanted to take accountability or responsibility, really acknowledge that problem, and I think the Trump administration is taking that very seriously, considering the millions of people that have lost their lives to that. They want to make sure that that stops. Another issue that I'm hoping maybe, Kevin, you can fill us in on, the TikTok conversation. That's a big question that I want to know about, too. So I don't know, Kevin, if you want to pick it up there. I mean,
Sure.
I think people want to hear about that.
I was going to make one observation regarding negotiating with Xi, which is unique to every other country. Xi, and I know Trump would not do this to him, would never submit himself to the rotisserie chicken White House press conference. Never. That's never going to happen. And that is part of why this is so delicate, because there's a completely separate group of the administration negotiating with China now around all kinds of issues, including TikTok. Now, I'm one of the many people syndicating a purchase of whatever assets are coming out of there. There are so many moving parts to this, but there's one part that's not moving, midnight September 17th. My assumption was last week, as many others assumed the same, that all Trump would do is punt it again for 90 days, claiming that it's part of a package with China, and it's just a pawn in this, and so we need to punt again. But many of the lawmakers who wrote this anti-spyware law, which exists on a bipartisan basis, are done. They're done. So what I think is going to happen now is we'll probably go dark on September 17th. And I'll tell you why this is a
TikTok will go dark.
Will go dark. I'm saying right now
Not
to you
Fox Business.
that it doesn't mean the negotiations stop for buying it, but I don't think Trump is going to punt it again for a bunch of reasons. Number one, I don't think he cares that much about it anymore. It used to be a big topic for him. It's at the bottom of the list. Number two, the people that wrote this law, Senator Cotton and everybody else, they're saying, "¿Qué pasa, hombre?" Like, what's going on here? How long can we keep punting this thing when it's illegal and there's a multi-billion-dollar fine that has not been addressed? But I think the real issue here is, and this is if you're a ByteDance shareholder, this is complicated as of this morning. ByteDance in the U.S. is only worth about 8.4% of the market cap of the U.S. TikTok is 8.4% of ByteDance's market cap. Okay. So if you're Xi and you have the super share, you don't give a damn. If you own the stock of ByteDance, you don't give a damn. It doesn't matter if it goes dark until today, because all of a sudden what those of us that are very involved in the TikTok deal are hearing, Canada says, wait a second, if it goes dark in the U.S., lights out in Canada. Then you're over in Europe. Other countries say, well, wait a minute, it must be spyware if the U.S. shut it off, just like India did. And slowly but surely, that market cap is being chiseled at one country at a time. And then all of a sudden, if you're a large shareholder of ByteDance, you're going, Chihuahua caramba, what's happening here? I'm going to get wiped out here. So now this is a domino effect of market cap. And if you're the buying syndicate, you're saying, how many people are going to leave the platform during the dark weeks of negotiation? Because I can tell you right now, as of today, every single one of the businesses that represent around $11 billion of revenue there have contingency plans, including all of mine. This is the first week ever.
You'll move on.
This is the first week ever in my buying group on a digital buy, which we do every Tuesday, where TikTok is not the #1 buy. Because we got to get ready. We don't know what's going to happen September 17th. That's a hot time of the market for customer acquisition. Yeah. So we're making new deals with everybody. So we got a lot. This is a great question, but what I just laid out for you is what's boiling in the cauldron. But the #1 issue is, I've got my ear to the track, and I'm listening to Cotton, and I'm saying, he's not going to put up with it. They're not going to extend it. And that's okay. It goes dark. It's gone dark before.
You don't think that there's going to be a tremendous outrage on the part of all the users of TikTok, and that's going to alarm politicians? I would think there's going to be such blowback.
We thought about that in India. You've got the case study. You know how long the blowback was? 5 days.
Right. People get over it.
Young people get over it real fast, and they find the next big thing.
That's interesting.
I mean, there's another Labubu out there somewhere. That's what's going to happen.
So actually, what you're saying, I think, is all of it's very important. But this last piece, that people move on and they move on fairly quickly. So to bring it back full circle with respect to the negotiation with Xi and how he's a different counterparty to negotiate with everybody else because the Chinese want to save face. But there's also a substantial value in TikTok here. If I was Xi, I don't want to see that go dark. I want to see some
Let me give you a number,
deal
Jack.
made.
Let me give you a number. 20 billion, okay? All cash. That's what I got right now. You know, McCourt and I have syndicated debt and equity for up 20 billion. We could do more. But the minute it's dark, I don't know, is it 20 billion anymore?
No,
how many people
not.
would start to lose?
Yeah.
And the real question is, do you think Xi gives a boop about $20 billion? He doesn't give a boop about 20 million.
Okay, I was thinking he might.
He doesn't give a furry rear ends about $20 billion. I know that. The whole market knows that. It's such a rounding error. But the concern goes back to, if you're a shareholder, ByteDance was one of the greatest digital investments in history. It did it all over the world. But I think what the U.S. is signaling by turning it off, if it happens, is this is Chinese spyware. So if you're a Nordic country or you're, anybody except allies of China, you're going to say, you know what, enough of this TikTok or whatever version we're calling it over here. We're going to shut it off because it's Chinese.
So just 2-second question. Are they talking about this right now in Sweden? Like when they're doing these negotiations, is this one of the things?
I think Ludnick signaled it's a thing, but he doesn't want it bundled in with a bigger deal.
All right.
I mean, I think in a little way, and I hate to say this because I hate to see this happen, but you live by the sword, you die by the sword with a golden share. You're dealing with Xi, and he doesn't give a poo-poo about TikTok.
Right.
And so you got to think about that going forward when you're putting together an international fund. How much of these Chinese golden share companies I'm not going to own any of them.
I was just going to say that would be, if Trump chooses to go dark with it, that would be the message to shareholders that he's trying to give. Invest in your own risk. If you want to invest in a Chinese company, for example, this one that was spyware.
Jackie, you're 100% right. All shareholders are waking up to this, all investors. But it's not Trump that's holding the TikTok deal up. It's Xi. And the more I watch this, the more I realize he doesn't give a rodent's rear end.